Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May Brahman protect us both, the teacher and the disciple. May he nourish us both. May we both work together with great energy. May our studies be vigorous and fruitful. May we not hate or criticize each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace. A happy Father's Day to all the fathers. So today we have come to the last part of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We'll be dealing with the sutras 29 to 34 of chapter 4. This is the last part. In the previous sutras, we saw how the mind attains the state of Kaivalya. That's ultimate freedom, isolation, liberation, whatever you want to call it. The impressions that arise as obstructions to Kaivalya can be overcome through the practice of Viveka, that is discrimination or discernment, and Vairagya, dispassion, that all that we saw in the previous sutras. And for that, you need constant vigilance. By constantly vigilant and having alertness, we can know as the impressions rise up from subconscious mind. And also that vigilance helps us to remain undisturbed by those impressions. In the last stage of struggle to reach the highest state of Kaivalya, the main effort is to maintain a high state of discrimination called Viveka Khyati. And if the yogi can remain in that state indefinitely, then it is possible for the yogi to enter the highest state of Samadhi, where even the seeds of the impression samskaras are burned off. What we call Nirbija Samadhi. When we dealt with Samadhi, we spoke about Nirbija Samadhi. And this highest state of Nirbija Samadhi is called Dharma Mekha Samadhi. So, Sutra 29, Patanjali says, Prasankhena akudiyasya sarvadha viveka khyate dharma megha samadhihi. Even when arriving at the right discriminating knowledge of the essences, he who gives up the fruits, unto him comes, as the result of perfect discrimination, the samadhi called the cloud of virtue. Dharma Mekha Samadhi, it's a Dharma Mekha, cloud of virtue. So in the last chapter, we saw how the various powers come to the yogi because of concentration. How intense concentration brings so many supernatural powers. And if you use those powers, the yogi will get distracted, may even have a fall from the path of yoga, because the powers can be very attractive, but at the same time, they are not good for spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna says, even one of those powers you have, you use it, then you will be straight away from the path of yoga, path from the spiritual path. When the yogi reaches the state of high concentration and discrimination called Viveka Khyati, perfect discrimination, all these powers come to him. Whether he wants or not, they come. But what they are asked us to do is ignore them. Don't use any of those things. Reject all these powers. He rejects all those powers, and because he realizes he recognizes that even the highest form of intelligence, the highest form of illumination and bliss that he gets is also an obstacle. And he completely renounces them. So he keeps complete non-attachment continuously without interruption. It's not that you practice non-attachment for some time and then go. No, practice of non-attachment continuously without any interruption. So these two things are important, Viveka and Vairagya, discrimination and dispassion. They strengthen each other and reinforce each other. Viveka brings non-attachment, and this non-attachment further clarifies the vision of the soul. So this yogi gives up all attachment, all selfishness. Now, what do you mean by selfishness? Holding on to anything which does not really belong to us is selfishness. Swami Sarvagatananda, in his explanation for this sutra, he speaks about 5 types of selfishness. There are 5 types of selfish people. The first one, the lowest, is extremely self-centered, selfish, absolute selfishness. Don't even care for one's own family. Just all me, nothing else. Whether wife, children, husband, parents, no, nothing. Just me. It's absolute selfishness. Then there's a second, a little more evolved person, care for the family, but not anybody else. Not the neighbors, the society, no. Only me and my family. Then comes a little more advanced person, an evolved person who cares for the society in general and even for the nation. Then still the outlook is broadened, have international outlook, global outlook, as we see now in all these people, activists clamoring for climate change and everything. It's not their personal thing, it's for the whole world. Then he speaks about another type of selfishness, those who have renounced everything and so proud of their renunciation. We have given up everything, we have renounced everything, we are great renouncers. And that is, the ego swells up. We have given up everything, we have renounced everything. And they say that's the highest form of selfishness. And very hard to get rid of also. Real selflessness concerned with not what you have, but how you feel about your possession. Not what you have, but how you deal with them, your attitude. The sages never asked us to give up everything, don't enjoy, sit quietly without having any enjoyment. No, they asked us to have enjoyment. The Isha Upanishad says, Tena tyaktena bhunjita, enjoy through detachment. You enjoy everything, but don't be attached. When we have detachment, we are ready to share with others. And with perfect detachment and discrimination comes this state. The perfect, when I say perfect, it's completely perfect. Highest state of detachment and discrimination comes this highest samadhi, dharma mekha samadhi. So Swami Vivekananda explains in these words, all the great prophets of the world whom history has recorded had this high state of samadhi. They had found the whole foundation of knowledge within themselves. Truth to them had become real. Peace and calmness and perfect purity became their own nature after they had given up the vanities of power. You give up the vanities of power, peace and calmness, perfect purity, all become their very nature. So this attainment of dharma mekha samadhi completes the cycle of the evolution of the individual. The individual has been evolving stage by stage. This is the highest stage. Ignorance, avidya, has been completely rooted out forever. And once the yogi reaches this state, there is no more fear of fall. Till then, there's always fear. Even you have got attained the stage of samadhi, there is a fear you may slip down. Attracted by the powers, you may make use of them and you may slip down. But once you reach this state, this samadhi, dharmamekha samadhi, even the seeds of the samskaras, impressions are burned out. Ignorance has been completely rooted out. There is no more fear of slipping back into this realm of Maya. In the next 5 sutras, Patanjali discusses the result of this higher state of samadhi. He doesn't describe this, what samadhi is, because it is beyond the description, or it's beyond the words, language. As Upanishad says, avang manasu gojaram. You cannot describe with words. It's a beyond reach of mind and words. So all he is telling is, when you attain this state of samadhi, what are the results? What is the effect? That's all he is telling. So Sutra 30 says, Tada klesha karma nivrittihi. From that comes cessation of pain and works. This one, the main effect of dharmamekha samadhi is freedom from afflictions. Afflictions are of 5 kinds that we have dealt earlier in the 2nd chapter. There are 5 types of afflictions or suffering. The first one is avidya, ignorance. Then asmita, egoism. Raga, attachment. Dvesha, repulsion. And finally, abhinivesha, clinging to life. So these are the 5 kleshas or pain, afflictions. Ignorance, egoism, attachment, attraction, repulsion, and clinging to life. When you reach this state of samadhi, in the dharmamekha samadhi, avidya is completely rooted out. And avidya is the cause of all the other 4. If you don't have to remove one by one the kleshas, the pain. You remove avidya. Avidya is the main cause. Avidya, the ignorance is removed, all the other just disappears by itself. Now, avidya is removed. Here it says, from that comes cessation of pain. All the pains. Ignorance is removed, all the pain, all forms of pain is removed. And then the yogi will no longer deviate from the path of yoga. Again, he won't be performing any action which binds him or hinders or covers his consciousness. That's why Patanjali says freedom from pain and work, klesha and karma. There is no more suffering or no trace of delusion. Completely ignorance is removed. So no delusion, no maya, and it's completely removed from their life. They become embodiment of purity. Not just they become embodiment of purity, people who come close to them, they also feel that. They also become purified. In the about places of pilgrimage, they say, Tirthi kurvante tirthani. People who go there make the place holy. Holy people make the place holy by imparting their purity. In the same way, people who go near holy people get purified. We can see in really highly evolved people, be in their presence, your mind calms down. You don't have to do anything. They don't have to say anything, not a single word, just absolute silence. But the mind becomes calm, serene. When Holy Mother Sharda Devi went to South India, she was in Bangalore. She and her group, all the entourage was there in Bangalore. And a lot of people used to come to see Mother. But Holy Mother doesn't know any language other than Bengali. And these people, they were quite conversant with English. But Mother doesn't speak English. She doesn't even speak Hindi. Mother speaks only Bengali. How to converse with them? The hall is full, all the devotees sitting there, and mother is sitting there quietly. And then she told the young Swami who was standing next to her, "Oh, if only I could say a few words. These people are sitting quietly. I can't say anything to them." Then when the Swami translated in English and told the devotees, they said, "No, we don't want. Just this presence is enough. Don't want to hear any, mother doesn't need to say anything, just the presence. The holy people, you go there, in their presence, you become purified." And take the case of an oil lamp. The lid is burning, but as the oil runs out, the flame becomes slowly faded down and dies off. Similarly, when all the actions are dying down, the mind dies out. The lamp of the mind is extinguished when the fuel runs out. And what's the fuel? The actions. We perform action, good and bad. They are all fuel for the mind. Go on working, collecting impressions. But when you stop performing, you perform action, but there are no, because there's no attachment, complete detachment, so they don't produce any more impression. So the mind doesn't get any fuel. The mind becomes no mind, as Buddha says. We may have done bad things because of ignorance, and that has covered the self, Atman, like a dark cloud. But now, no more impressions are coming, and this Samadhi removes whatever impressions were there, like fire destroying the burning out the fuel. So Bhagavad Gita says, Jnanagni dagdha karmani. All the actions are burnt by the fire of knowledge. When you get the illumination, all actions are burnt. That doesn't mean that you don't perform any action. You will perform action, but they don't give any result. We are not attached to it. There's no more results coming. So and you'll be performing actions will be always good. You cannot perform any bad action. By nature, you'll be forced to do only good deeds. And that comes because of the illumination, enlightenment. That is why we pray for enlightenment, we pray for illumination. The Gayatri Mantra, we pray, may he illumine our intellect. When the intellect is illumined, then we will be performing action, but it won't be causing any bondage. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, we say, Shri Krishna saying, Yajnaya adarata karma samagram praviliyate. When work done dedicated to God, the whole karma in its entirety melts away. All the action is to perform for God. You do work. As Krishna says in the Gita, in the 3rd chapter, nobody can live a moment without performing action. So you perform action, even after enlightenment. Buddha got enlightenment at the age of 35, and he, for the next 45 years, he performed constantly, till the last moment of his life, just before death. He was almost on the deathbed, and somebody came, wanted to ask him some questions. Ananda tried to stop him, but Buddha said, no, let him come. So till the last moment, he performed action, not for himself, for the welfare of the world. Loka Sangraham, as Sri Krishna says. Now Patanjali gives about another result of or effect of this Dharmamekha Samadhi, Sutra 31. Tada sarva avarana mala apetasya jnanasya ananyat jneyam alpam. The knowledge bereft of covering and impurities becoming infinite, the knowable becomes small. Knowledge becomes infinite. so noble, what you can know becomes very small, little. As we evolve, the things we thought or believe, looked upon till then as great, big, they become small. For example, on earth, when you look around, earth is so vast, so huge, you cannot imagine how vast the earth is. But you go to outer space, it's a small speck. We saw some pictures showing that small dot, that is our earth. So small. So our as we evolve, the things we look upon till then as huge, vast, becomes very small. Again, the world is so difficult, so strong, powerful, hard to deal with. But as we evolve, all those difficulties which we thought hard becomes easy. Even if on a physical level, for a child, something is so difficult, so hard to deal with, the grown-up does easily. In the same way, as we evolve spiritually, as we evolve on the spiritual path, the things that we thought huge, insurmountable, becomes easy. Knowledge becomes infinite. Things of the world becomes nothing. The knowledge gained through the organs of perception becomes insignificant compared to the knowledge or the wisdom gained through the soul. Swami Vivekananda says, when Brahman is realized in the essence of one's consciousness, this creation seems to be insignificant. When you realize that your real nature is Brahman, you are Brahman, then this universe, the creation becomes insignificant. You don't bother about it. You see everything, but it doesn't affect you. Not that you become callous. No, you care for them, you care for everybody, you feel for them, but you are not completely affected. You don't. It doesn't go inside you, affect you. As we say, you are in the water, but the boat is in the water, but water is not in the boat. You are in the world, but the world is not in you. This whole universe is the play of Maya, the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So those who have realized their soul, the play of Maya seems worthless. Just a child's play. Don't take it too seriously. And then, tada kridarthanam parinama krama samaptir gunanam. Then are finished the successive transformations of the qualities, they having attained the end. The successive transformation of the qualities, gunas, from one guna to another, the transformation, they are all finished because they have attained their end. They have reached, they have fulfilled the purpose. So they come to, they don't become no longer valid. There's no more need for them. In the second chapter in Sutra 18, Patanjali explained that the whole universe that we experience is composed of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Whatever we experience in the universe is composed of these three gunas, nothing else. From those three gunas have evolved the universe, the instruments of knowledge, like our mind and the senses, and the objects perceived. Everything has come out of these three gunas only. See, the instruments of perception, the eyes, ears, nose, skin, tongue, all the five senses that we through which we get in knowledge. The things are experienced. Something, a beautiful sight I see, a flower or something, a beautiful music I hear, through the tongue I taste. All this made up of 3 gunas only, nothing else. And why is this universe there? They say it is for the experience of the soul, the individual soul, Atman, to experience and slowly, going through the experience, gain freedom. This whole world is for us to learn. It is there so that we go through those experiences, learn from them, and finally attain freedom. That's all the purpose of the universe. And once we have gained freedom, learned all these things, we learned our lessons, gained freedom, then the universe, the gunas doesn't have any more purpose for us, that for that particular person, not for everybody else. Others there's need, but for that particular person, the gunas have fulfilled their purpose, they just go back. They have come for a purpose to learn, to give experience to the Atman. That the Atman has gained experience. It's like going through school. You learn the lessons, pass the examination, then you go out. For the teacher, the next set of students come. The gunas will look after the next set of another next soul. But for that particular soul, he's gone. He has gone to gain freedom. And so in that final stage of all the succession from species to species come to an end. We have to remember, science says we started evolution from single cell amoeba, and then multicellular organism, plants, animals came to this human level. And as Swami Vivekananda always says, on the human level, physical evolution is completed. Then it is on the psychological level, emotional level, spiritual level, evolution continues. There is nothing more to gain. It's like going up the steps to the terrace. We climb step by step. And once you reach the terrace, there's no more steps to climb. There is no more going up. What is there up there? Just the vast infinite sky, space. And here, in this yoga practices, once you reach that stage, what else is there? Final state, there's nothing. Infinite consciousness. There's nothing more. And for that, you have to remember, as we said earlier, complete discrimination and dispassion is necessary. And the mind has to be kept purified for all that to gain that state. And Purusha, the master, keeps the gunas under his control. Once you reach that stage, the gunas till then had Purusha, the master, under its control, showing all these fascinating things of the universe, of the world. But now he has the control, and the gunas just serve him. Now he cannot no longer attract him or cover his glory. He has realized his infinite glory. Now we come to the last but sutra. Kshana pratiyogi parinama aparanda nirgrahya kramaha. The changes that exist in relation to moments and which are perceived at the other end, at the end of a series, are succession. So in the previous sutra, Patanjali said, then are finished the successive transformation of the qualities, successive transformation. So what is meant by succession? That Patanjali is explaining here. What is succession? The changes that exist in relation to moments. Moment to moment, there's changes taking place. but we are not conscious, we are not aware of those changes. We come to know them only at the end of a series of changes. At the end of a series of changes, we come to know, and that is called succession. Change after change, moment by moment, changes are taking place. But we are not aware of it. But when the series of changes take place, then we become conscious, oh, things have changed. So Patanjali is explaining what is meant, what he means by succession. That is the changes that exist in relation to moments. Only when we reach the top, at the end of the series, we understand that when we attain the freedom, then we realize how much progress we have made. People often complain, I don't think I'm making any progress in spiritual life. We don't know how we are progressing. Only after a long time you turn back and look how you were, say 10 years before, 15 years before, 20 years before. Then you realize, yes, I have changed. I have progressed. If something has this had happened 10 years before, I don't think I'll be able to face it. So it means we have progressed. But it happening change moment by moment, so we don't understand. At the end of a series, you turn back, look, then you realize change has happened. Evolution is a process. We cannot know how people evolve. Every action and thought of the person helps in the evolution. And nobody can stop the process of evolution. No, I'm going to remain in the same state. I don't want to change. No, you can't. You're forced to change. The nature will make you change. So evolution is a process. Nobody can stop that process. Whether you are going through enjoyment or suffering, both help us to evolve. Only the difference is, if you are leading a ethical, moral life, the struggle and suffering will be less, that's all. But if you are leading an uncontrolled life, your struggle and suffering will be more. But you will have to evolve. And again, there is no uniform process of evolution. Some may evolve fast, some may be at the pace of an ant just crawling, but everybody will evolve. We may think some person is wicked, evil, then suddenly one day we see that person has changed completely, leading a good life. What happened? Suddenly the potential for goodness has opened and the person is going fast forward on the evolution. Even bad things are trying with bad actions are effect or effort to evolve. So according to Swami Vivekananda, the thief commits theft or a murderer commits a murder. In both cases, the person is trying to know or struggling to evolve. Only the method adopted is the wrong one, that's all. They are struggling to evolve. What do you mean by time? Time is a sequence of individual moments. One moment, next moment goes on. Like we say, little drops of water, little grains of sand make the mighty ocean and the vast earth. So little moments, one by one, moments make the time. And with every moment, gunas keep on changing, keep on mutating with every moment. But we don't understand, we become aware of it only at the end of a series of changes, mutations. When the change becomes so perceptible, then we realize, oh, things have changed. Otherwise, we don't realize the changes happening moment by moment. For example, you look at a bud. In the early morning, I know this bud is about to bloom, but it's still bud. You stand and watch, you don't see it opening, but after an hour or so, it's become a beautiful flower. or a beautiful butterfly coming out of a cocoon. You don't see it struggling to come out. But after some time, you see the beautiful butterfly, a baby growing up. Can you see the baby growing up? A few years later, you see the young person, young adult. Moment by moment, changes are taking place, but we see it at the end of a series of changes. That is called succession. Ordinary person is not aware of these moments. Ordinary person understands moments as movements. When a few moments gone to the past or the future. So for us, ordinary people, we know the movements of time, moments as past, present, and future. But as moments in themselves, we don't understand them. Whereas the yogi, he lives in the moment. For the yogi, there is no movement of moments. Only he lives in the present moment. The past and future are not there for him. He lives in the present moment. So he sees everything in a flash, not like us, bit by bit. He sees everything together. Even the smallest detail is there. Nothing is lost. If the yogi wants to see the whole of his past life, future life, he can see everything because he lives in that present moment. Everything is there. There's no past and future for him. So Swami Vivekananda explains this. When I think, many moments pass. And with each moment, there's a change of idea. But I only perceive these changes at the end of a series. See, how do we think? Moment by moment, we are thinking, and it is changing. And together, after some time, it comes as an idea in our mind. When I think, Swamiji's words, when I think, many moments pass. And with each moment, there is a change of idea. But I only perceive these changes at the end of a series of changes. This is called succession. But for the mind that has realized omnipresence, there is no succession. Everything has become present for it. To it, the present alone exists. There is nothing, no past, no future, only present. The past and future are lost. Time stands controlled. All knowledge is there in 1 second. Everything is known like a flash. Everything is in the present. So the yogi can know everything. The Samadhi, we say, it's somewhat like deep sleep. Time stands still. Then we come to the final sutra. Purushartha shunyanam gunanam pradiprasava kaivalyam Sarupa pradishta va chidi shakteriti. The resolution, the inverse order of the qualities, bereft of any motive of action for the Purusha, is Kaivalya. Or it is the establishment of the power of knowledge in its own nature. So what is Kaivalya? That's the aim of yoga, to attain Kaivalya. What is Kaivalya? That's Patanjali saying here. He said that the Dharma Megha Samadhi, when you attain that, you attain Kaivalya. But we cannot explain what it is, but he is giving some glimpse. I said earlier, what happens when you attain Kaivalya cannot be described. He said some of the effects of Dharma Megha Samadhi. And now he is pointing out certain conditions present in that state of Kaivalya. So the resolution in the inverse order of qualities, gunas, bereft of any motive of action for the Purusha, is Kaivalya. And or two types, two examples, two definitions given, or it is the establishment of the power of knowledge in its own nature. Purusha gets established in that state for the purpose of his evolutionary unfoldment. Having fulfilled the purpose, the gunas go back to a state of equilibrium. You remember we said the whole universe is made up of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And they are there for the experience of the Purusha to gain experience. Now Purusha, the purpose of fulfilled, Purusha has gained experience, he has attained freedom. Now the gunas, the purpose is finished, they go back to nature. And the power of knowledge or consciousness gets established in its own nature. It's, what do you mean by inverse? See, there first it's the resolution in the inverse order of the qualities or reverse order of qualities. It's going back from effect to cause. And then that cause becomes the effect, and then going back, step by step going back. Earlier it's coming forward, now it's going back. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a ball of strings, colored strings, winding. So different color strings are wound into a ball. And when you pull out, when you unwind, what happens? All those strings come out one by one in different colors comes out. So this resolution of the inverse order of qualities is that unwinding all the samskaras, impressions from our subconscious mind. The modifications, the tendencies of the subconscious mind are all resolved in the reverse order. One by one, they are brought out and destroyed. How do you destroy it? By ignoring them. Earlier we said there are two methods, sublimation or substitution. Sublimation is turning towards God. All the impressions come, good, bad, turn everything to send it to God. I don't have any attachment, send it to God. Or substitution. When the bad impressions, good impressions come, they are disturbing the mind. You substitute with the name of God, repetition of the mantra. Then those impressions become weak, powerless, and then get lost. So that's the subconscious. All the impressions from subconscious mind we have to be emptied. That is what's meant by here. Resolution in the inverse order. And there is no motive for action. Bereft of any motive of action for the Purusha. There is nothing to gain. When we are collecting impressions, when we are doing things with attachment, we're doing for gaining something. Gaining something or to avoid losing something. All the actions that we do got two purposes. Either to gain something or to avoid something, losing something. Now Purusha has fulfilled. All the desires are fulfilled. There is nothing for him to gain. There is no motive for action. Bereft of any motive of action for the Purusha is Kaivalya. Now all this unwinding, removing all the impressions from subconscious mind, for what? To find the core, the Purusha, the purity. So only two purposes. One is negative, the other is positive. Negative is remove all the impressions from the subconscious mind. The positive attitude is to find the truth. And removing these samskaras is known as the establishment or the power of knowledge in its own nature. Detachment from the impressions is negative, and trying to know the truth is a positive. Together, they form or give kaivalya, the final liberation, freedom. And that kaivalya is the end result of the series of succession. We have gone through many, many lives. One life you do go forward to a certain extent. Then either you stop, or you get distracted, get slip from the path. We saw in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, Arjuna asked the question, what happens if the yogi slips from the path of yoga? Shri Krishna says, in the next life, they start again. They get a good birth in a favorable circumstances, favorable surroundings, and continue on the spiritual path from where they stop. Nothing is lost. So through life after life, we go through, that's why it's called succession. Through life after life, we go. We started long ago as an amoeba. Then through different stages, we came to his human birth. And even in the human birth, how many lives we go through? Gaining experience, all sorts of experience. We want to go on experience, enjoyment. They're all binding us. These are all winding up the colored strings on the ball. Now, when you reach the final stage, you're unwinding everything, removing all the impressions one by one, and attain the final truth in its purity. There's nothing else covering. All this time, nature had been playing and keeping Purusha, the master, under its control by showing all these playthings, attractive things. Now, it's no longer gathering experience. Purusha becomes established in his forgotten true glory. Not that you get something from outside, your glory, your self is coming from outside. You are the true self. You are infinite Atman, but you have forgotten. You realize that I am that Atman. That's all. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example in a story form. A prince, a newborn prince, was abducted. Now, the little baby was given to a washerman, and he grew up as a washerman's child. Now, somebody in the palace knew that the baby has got these signs. So somehow they had a feeling it's not dead. It is there somewhere living. So the people, the soldiers were going around looking for the baby everywhere. That this age, say 10 years old child searching for it everywhere. And they knew they got some birthmark, so searching for that. And at last found this washerman's son. So this is the prince, brought it back. Now, did the child change in any way? No, the child is the same. But till then it thought it was the washerman's child. Now it knows it's a prince. Our state is like that. We think that we are this little puny human beings born on this day, living in this place. We have forgotten that we are the infinite Atman. Through this process, we don't get anything external, but we remember our forgotten glory. That's what he says. Purusha becomes free from all limitations. All these limitations came to him because of his involvement with Prakriti, with with the nature of the gunas. And now, free from all limitation, he becomes completely established in consciousness. And that consciousness is also love and bliss. That is why the Brahman or Atman is described as existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. Swami Vivekananda, in a very poetic way, explains the last sutra. Swamiji says, nature's task is done. This unselfish task, which our sweet nurse, nature, had imposed upon herself. She gently took the self-forgetting soul by the hand, as it were, and showed him all the experiences in the universe, all manifestations, bringing him higher and higher through various bodies, till his lost glory came back, and he remembered his own nature. We, through many lives, many bodies, we have gone through experiences, forgetting our true glory. But at last, the nature is holding us. And at last we remembered our true glory. Then the kind mother went back the same way she came. For others who also have lost their way in the trackless desert of life. For her work with us, nature's work with us is over. Because that one person, that one particular soul has realized its true glory, the forgotten glory, remembered I am the true self. Then the nature's work with that person is over, goes to other lost souls to lead them forward. Then, as I said earlier, one child has passed the graduation from the class. The child goes off. The teacher continues to teach the next group. And thus is she working without beginning and without end. And thus, through pleasure and pain, through good and evil, the infinite river of souls is flowing into the ocean of perfection, of self-realization. It's not only through good actions, through pleasure. No, pain also is a great teacher. And they say pain is a better teacher than pleasures. Because when you have pleasures, everything goes smooth in life. We don't think deeply. We just flow through life. But when things go bad, then we think deep. When we turn inward. And thus, through pleasure and pain, through good and evil, the infinite river of souls is flowing into the ocean of perfection. The souls are infinite in number. So the work of nature, Prakriti, continues. Few souls have gained freedom. No, that's not enough. That's the infinite souls are there, bound. So she continues her work. And at the end, this is the last sentence of Swami Vivekananda in his Raj Yoga. Glory unto those who have realized their own nature. May their blessings be on us all. Thank you.
So just a little bit of setting up here, everybody, and then we'll have a question and answer time. I just want to rearrange things a bit for Pravrajika up on the stage here. Just a moment. I'm just getting the camera right. Okay. So, anyone to ask a question? I've got a comment to make, kind of a comment come question, and I'll just check there's somebody pop up chat there too. I better just see. Oh, just a thank you. All right. So Swamiji beautifully describing the ultimate journey that we take, and we get liberation. I'm just reflecting on it. It's a bit stingy, actually, how many people at any one time in the whole world is attaining samadhi. I do wonder. It's a very, if you're playing, if it's a numbers game, very, very few you imagine at any one time actually attain samadhi. This is a very rare thing, and I sometimes feel a bit sad about that. How elusive and rare it is.
Perhaps one may try. So we don't even try, and those 7,000 who try, one may attain to. That's all. So we try. We are happy with the joy that we have, the enjoyment in the world. So we are very happy with that. We don't really realize we get the enjoyment. But I don't want any more. So then we won't be so happy.
Well, you would imagine, though, there are times in history where maybe you do have significant numbers of people attaining this. And then I wondered, of course, Patanjali, it's all part of the Eastern tradition. But then I'm thinking about the early days of Christianity, and you had these large numbers of hermits and leading very austere lives. And you would wonder, amongst them, there must have been people reaching samadhi. You would like to think in their own way, in a different tradition.
When they reach the high stage, they all reach the same high stage. Whether you are following the Eastern religion or that is making difference at all. But in this case, are going beyond a particular stage. It is a stage called kind of spirituality. And we cannot say that only that age I was so. We know it was wrong. Better fathers and brothers. But we don't know how we are there. They don't proclaim themselves as the soul. Silently they live and they live and leave the world. They silently live and leave the world. They're not really smart. Repeat the same thing.
Just saying very faint, so I think if they're only hearing this mic, you're not picking up the other mic on Zoom.
So you said only in the Middle Ages when the desert fathers are there, we hear about hermits, but even well, that's true. There would have been many souls who had attained the highest state of samadhi, but even now there will be many, because they are unknown heroes, unknown sages. We don't hear about them, but they are there everywhere. People leading quiet lives, but going deep into their higher spiritual realms.
Good talk. Oh, okay. Good talk, Gayatriprana. I just wanted to ask you a question. You talked about the gunas and the senses. I can't quite understand the relationship And can you also expand on what the gunas really mean? Is it essentially will?
Gunas are not will. It is the three gunas, they say, constituents of Prakriti. Everything comes out from them. But we can only know about the gunas from their effect. Whether it is in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna speaks about the three gunas of all the three different action, the sattva action, rajasic action, tamasic action, sattva knowledge, rajasic knowledge, tamasic knowledge, sattva performer, actor, rajasic performer, tamasic performer. So through the effect of the results, only we can understand the gunas. Again, everything is made up of the three gunas. And we all have got the three gunas in us. Each time, different times, different, that one guna may be predominant, and at another time, the other may be predominant. But everybody has got the three gunas, and everything in the whole universe is made up of these three gunas. They are not concrete things. They are not will. The whole mind, the will, intellect, mind, everything is made up of the gunas. There is nothing other than the gunas in the whole universe.
Mataji, one question. There was, can Samadhi also be called as dissolution of Vikriti, given that Prakriti is defined as consciousness, and Vikriti is defined as the changes of these gunas. So once you are in the equilibrium of, say, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvic, if it's in a perfect equilibrium, you're, can I call that as also saying dissolution of Vikriti?
It's a resolution. It's a resolution of Prakriti, because it's gone back to the state of equilibrium. When the equilibrium is disturbed, then the whole creation, the whole universe comes into existence. When the gunas are in equilibrium, go back to dissolution. The universe dissolves back into original unmanifested state.
Yeah.
So in the state of Samadhi, the gunas have gone back to the state Samadhi that we spoke about today, Dharma Megha Samadhi. The gunas have gone back to the state of equilibrium.
Okay. Yeah. And that is also related to, say, the Shiva and Shakti side of things, right? So you move Shakti.
What was the relationship between the gunas and the senses? You mentioned that in your talk, Gayatriprana.
The senses and the mind are the instruments of knowledge, to gain knowledge from the external universe. And they are also made up of the three gunas. Whereas, and depending upon what guna is predominant, the type of knowledge that we gain depends upon that.
So perhaps the gunas represent the state of the mind. So the knowledge that is presented before you through the senses gets interpreted or understood from the state of mind you are in at that moment. So if you are in a sattva state of mind, then the same flower is a beautiful flower. And if you are in a state of wanting to, in a hurry to make a garland, then You would say earlier, it's already, if I make a garland, it's going to fall off. And I'm trying to say, perhaps our senses interpret the same situation or the same thing depending on the gunas in which we are. Is that a way to look at it, Mataji?
Yeah, that is also an explanation, because the gunas decide everything. What we see, what we hear, how we understand, everything is decided by the three gunas. We are completely under their control.
So thanks to Gayatriprana ji for taking us through this very, very subtle and profound tradition, I would almost call it. I mean, it goes back so far. And I always wonder how far the modern world has caught up with these teachings, especially the modern Western world. It's starting to delve into such things now, but there's quite a way to go. Some announcements. We've got the yoga class this Thursday from 10 a.m. This coming Friday night, we've got the fortnightly spiritual evening discussion. And we have the benefit of also having Pravrajika Gayatriprana ji sitting in on the discussion. And we are particularly looking forward to next Sunday, where Pravrajika's Gayatriprana ji and Sri Daraprana ji are going to share some anecdotes about Sri Sharada Math, about some of the great nuns and the activities. And in particular, they're going to focus on nuns that we close devotees, nuns that we haven't heard of or may not have had much contact with, but we were all familiar with the, how shall we say, the shining lights of Sharada Math, the ones who have played the most prominent role in the establishing and running of the Math since it was formed in 1954. But there are other nuns who, for varying reasons, were a little bit more in the background, but were, of course, also very significant figures in their spiritual life and in the activities. So it's going to be a golden opportunity to hear about some of those nuns as well. And so I do hope you can all join us next Sunday for that. And starting from the usual time from 11 a.m. And we have donation plate and donation box after that.